Can't think. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I can't. What am I supposed to do?
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Bill. How are you guys going? I love that it's Friday night here. It's a Friday night and it's cold and it's stormy and I'm wearing my hoodie and I'm happy. So yes, it might seem like it's deja vu, but it's always deja vu on this carousel from hell. Or is it the carousel of hell? Who really knows? Because everything just comes back around, the cycle of evil of KJ. But yes, this is the IG or the Instagram live that she did, still on World Premi Day, which I find hard to say. I always just say prem, but yeah, there's two other videos. So she did the rounds. I forgot about this, unless sorry, my voice is just in the last 10 minutes. The cold air has just got into my throat and I sound a bit rough in the throat. Fuck. Gosh, I've thrown myself off. Story of my life. Okay. So on Wednesday night, we watched the YouTube live that she did on the, Katie Joy Live, November 17, 2020. And so I'll link that below if you haven't seen it. And then, tonight is the Instagram live and it's a long one. It's half an hour or so, but we are going to watch it. Hopefully this one because I don't want to spoil it. I don't want my reaction to be spoiled by watching it before I get on live, which is probably my downfall, but it's better this way. So I hope this one she does address the spina bifida stuff, because I believe that being born premature and having the spina bifida issue is one of the biggest problems with his eating, because so I've got to say, like, everything is my own opinion. We all know that. But I'm also my opinion of a premature, am I still a premature baby? I haven't grown up, but even just reading this, like, because I was born premature as well, I share similar issues that V has gone through. So obviously not as bad as him, but wow, there's a lot of stuff I didn't know. And I was reading about spina bifida and I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky I didn't have extreme cases. But I have the big so spina bifida is when your neural tube in your spine, down your base of your spine, the tail doesn't close properly. And so, I've got this huge lump there, but some people are born with it like wide open, has to be closed by surgery, but it affects basically from my waist down. I am semi-paralyzed, I would say. And that was like extremely weak muscle tone. My digestive system is basically like doesn't work and needs to like kickstart, and just weaken the legs and stuff. But with the feeding, premature babies, or our muscles are underdeveloped. So V would have had trouble using his tongue to chew and swallow, and then it would hit the digestive system, and that's why his stomach was extended as well. Mine is still extended. Sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, oh my God, got to bring that in. Don't want to look like the penguin. I love it though. I love it when I look like the penguin. But so we're going to get into that. We'll watch it in a bit, but I just want to tell you guys about the Cactus contributors. They're the one level up from the Cactus crew. There's only one tier, members only, exclusive content, and you get a little badge. And you get shout outs. And tonight, drum roll, TK. I know, finally. Thank you so much for being a Cacti contributor, but thank you for also riding sidecar with me. Although I feel like I'm in the sidecar and you're like the driver sometimes. You're the one with the brain, but you always throw me like side cards from the side to let me know where I am. But we haven't had to do that in a while, have we? Anyway, I hope you have a really good day. And you're here. Well, your day's going to start great, isn't it? Well, we'll see. We'll see how traumatic it goes. But the thing is that I just need to say is sometimes my brain tunes out with Katie. Actually, not sometimes. The majority of the time, I will tune her voice out and then I'll just start reading her body language. And so sometimes I miss stuff that she says. So if you're listening and you want to put a timestamp in, just tag me in the comments below and I'll go and listen and then I'll put it in. And like, it'll be good. We'll work together. But where are we? Is that it? Is that it? Should I just bring her in? Oh, got to bring her in now. This is where we all got to take a deep breath. Okay. Oh, hang on. I got to get rid of me. Oh, okay. Let's just press play.
Hello, everyone. Hi. It's Monday night. I have been like working all day, bringing content, uploading. It is this very weird season of the world. And it's like supposed to be Thanksgiving, I think, in a couple weeks. And I'm like, are we even going to see our family? This is nuts. And I'm trying to find you guys like interesting content and to keep you like entertained. And my brain is just like a constant state of utter scrambles. So what I was thinking about was I have been trying to do a mix of content for you guys. And I told you a few weeks ago that I wanted to use my platform, not just for tea, but also to bring awareness to a bunch of different topics. And I have so many topics I could literally bring awareness to just because of all the various chronic illnesses that we have in our house. But tomorrow is World Prematurity Day. And I am wondering if you have a preemie or if you were a preemie, if you have a story. My son was born at 35 weeks. He actually tried to come at like 28 weeks. We had a very rocky pregnancy. It was a lot of him wanting to try to come early for weeks and weeks and weeks, and preterm labor and contractions and bed rest and trying to keep him in there as long as possible. And eventually the contractions just wore out my cervix. And, there's so much, I don't know, there's this weird part of having a preemie where they don't really explain to you that you'll go through trauma as that as the mama. There's like this trauma that you experience, not only because you leave your child in a hospital for weeks at a time and you trust people that you've never met before to take care of your child, to make decisions for your child, but then you also deal with guilt. I don't know if you did, but I did. I felt guilty that my body couldn't keep him in longer. I felt like my body let me down. I felt like I had one job. I had one job to do as his mother, and I couldn't do it. My body couldn't do it. And I don't know if you've experienced that. I don't know if you felt like that, but if you did, I just want you to know you're not alone, because we can't really control. I learned over time, like, you have no control of what your body does. but it's not abnormal to feel guilty. It's not abnormal as a mother to feel like you didn't do what you were supposed to. And it doesn't help that society in general is just really awful to moms. When we have preemies, we're immediately shamed, or what did you do wrong? Were you drinking? Were you smoking?
Really? When it comes to premature birth, really? I don't think that is ever a question. But I just want to say, notice how she's like, I said this in the last live, my mum can't even, like, I don't have a birth story. And I kind of understand, because my mum she had post-traumatic stress disorder from my birth, because it was the most traumatic thing she'd ever gone through. And then I picked up a lot of the anxiety that she was feeling, because she didn't go and get treated for it, because just back then you just carried on with life. And Katie's just not even just the whole trauma of what she went through, even seeing her child unwell in the NICU, she doesn't flinch or anything. She's just so happy to tell the story. And it's just a story. Like, there's just no emotional root from that tree. Like, it's just the tree. It's basically just a plastic tree. Where are we? Plastic trees. Oh my God, I feel like watching Beetlejuice. That's where my brain's taking me.
Were you on six weeks? I had to lay on my back the whole time. Otherwise, I would be in contractions. I couldn't get off the couch to make a sandwich even. It was so exhausting. And I think there's not enough awareness for moms that have preemies to know that, like, I don't know, there's this weird world that you enter once you become a preemie mom, of NICUs, beeping, of feeling guilty that you didn't do enough, of feeling sad that you have to leave your baby, the trauma of seeing babies come in and out of the NICU, the trauma of if you lost a baby, the trauma if you had a baby that was near you in the NICU that died. We had a lot of babies that were like on our floor that passed away. And it was really heartbreaking watching family members of these babies like have to say goodbye. It's traumatic, not only for the parents, but as a parent yourself who just had a baby, then there's that fear that could happen to your child. There's the trauma of the bradycardia, because babies that are born preterm have this dip in their hearts where their hearts just go really low. And then their oxygenation levels go really low. And you sit there and you gasp for air, waiting for them to take a breath, or for their heart rate to go back up, or for something. You know, there's the trauma of seeing your baby bagged back.
She loves these details. Do you know what? This is where my brain's gone to. Remember the video where, it must be the dog video, where she's describing what Sweetie went through at the puppy mill, and she was excited about the details. Like, this is the kind of stuff, she's talking in third person, first off. So she has not dealt with it. She's distanced herself from it. She's talking third person. We want to hear your story, Katie, but what are you doing looking around and taking in what's going on around you? Just so interested in what's going on around you rather than what's happening with, I can't even imagine. I'm trying to think, because when I'm trying to think when I'm in hospital, like with someone, and I'm in like they're in the ER. Like, I don't notice stuff that she notices, like looking around and remembering what the doctors were saying and stuff. Like, nothing is personal. Where's the emotion? Look, she's got her hand there. I almost feel like she's going to do cliffhanger. If she does cliffhanger, I might have to do a happy dance, because I haven't seen it in a while. We saw Pinchy the other night. Oh! And yeah, Venda just said, like, had she swapped shoulders from what she had the top on her YouTube live the other night? Oh, that we did. Or is the video flipped? I don't know.
To life. There's so much trauma that you experience in the NICU that I don't think people really talk about. They don't prepare you for it. They don't prepare you for what happens after. They don't prepare you for the fact that once you come home, you're going to have probably PTSD from what you experienced in the NICU. It's a lot, you guys. And then once you do get your baby home, you have to live in a bubble, I tell you. Your child has premature lungs. It's premature lungs. It's hard to deal with premature lungs. You have babies that you're afraid that if anybody comes near them, they will get RSV because they make you feel very afraid about RSV. And you sit there and you wonder, like, is my child going to get RSV? It's extremely challenging. And it's hard for a lot of us to talk about it because we are afraid to relive the trauma. We are afraid to relive the bradycardia. We are afraid to relive the resuscitation. We are afraid to relive the pokes, the lines.
Well, you have no trouble describing all that equipment and everything. You have no trouble right now relaying this story to us. You mentioned PTSD, just like, oh, everyone has it. Well, this is not how you fuck. Like, my mum tries to tell me my birth story and she can get one word out and then she just starts shaking.
All of it. But I feel like a PICU is for kids, a NICU is for babies. A PICU is a pediatric ICU, and NICU is for whatever, neonatal versus pediatric. Anyways, but the neonatal is all just babies that have just been born. A lot of the babies that are in the neonatal are heart babies. They have heart conditions. They are micro preemies that have 23, 24 weeks. They are babies like mine that were my baby was 35 weeks, but he was born sick. And so even though my son was the biggest baby on the floor, he was also one of the sickest babies because he had an illness that they couldn't figure out what was going on. It took them 7 weeks just to figure out part of the problem. And then they sent us home and they didn't have it all figured out. And then we were home for 7 weeks. And then he almost died at home because they missed something while he was in the NICU that we should have been able to find, but they didn't find. And then they found it when he was 3 months and he almost died.
Katie, you said in your article, I used to be a crunchy mum, you said you didn't believe in prenatal care. You said you didn't believe in prenatal vaccinations. You didn't bother getting your whooping cough vaccination, and then your child ends up with fucking whooping cough. And you blamed your nephew? My God, you're the most unhygienic woman ever. And there's pictures of you. You've just put your son in your bed. He's an infant. There's nothing there. It's just so awful. Doesn't show that you had to be careful. You were taking him everywhere.
So a lot of babies that are preemies get discharged and end up right back in the hospital, and they don't tell you that. It's a very rough road when you have a preemie. They are so fragile. You live in a proverbial bubble. And unless your friends are mother of a preemie, most people around you just don't get it. Most moms, no, he didn't have an apnea monitor. He was sent home with some liver stuff, but he ended up having apneic spells at home, and then he stopped breathing. And then once he had more apneic spells, and then we finally had to rush him to the hospital. Once we got to the hospital, it was like he was at death's door. You guys, it was so scary. His blood sugar was 7, and his body temperature was 91, I think, 0.4. He was in respiratory failure, cardiac failure. It was bad. It was really bad. The blood sugar 7 was the scariest because if your blood sugar is 7, you should be dead. The first monitor of the blood sugar wasn't even read on the like little thing. So they had to intubate him. They had no idea what was wrong with him. And then he finally ended up, he was on life support for a week. they basically had to throw everything at him. And then they finally figured out that he was born without a pituitary gland, but they missed that in the first 7 weeks because it's scary. And you just, the trauma of him almost dying was 100.
I bet it pisses off everyone, doesn't it? How she says he was born without a pituitary gland. You can't fucking be born without it. It just doesn't work. It doesn't produce the amount of hormones needed. Like, you can't be born without it. And she says he was born without certain parts of his brain. I would hate her child to fucking hear what she says. Nothing she has said so far has been fucking positive. And it's my son, right? You never hear her say our son. She never says our son. And her fucking top is awful, man. It's making her look like she's got a tiny head. No? Waiting room Beetlejuice. God, maybe I really need to watch Beetlejuice.
100% the worst moment of my life. The worst moment of my life was finding out from a doctor on the NICU floor or on the PICU that he believed my son was going to die. You know, like literally having a doctor sit you down and say, your child is the sickest child on this floor. If your child does not.
Fuck off with the fucking competing for the sickest child on the floor. Why would you even bring that up? Who cares? Why is that a relevant piece of information that you love to keep repeating in every time you've told this? Does it make you feel good that you had the sickest child on the floor? Oh, man. In your eyes, you just assume that, Katie, and that is the worst thing to fucking assume. Who even has that thought to, when I like retell this story, I'm going to make sure people know that he was the sickest child on the floor. That just fucking pissed me off. My parents were told that I wasn't going to walk and that I probably wasn't going to live past the first week. My parents had to like wait. Like I wasn't held. I didn't have like skin to skin contact for like over a fortnight. So she's so unaware of the world outside of her little fucking bubble, her imaginary world where he has the worst. You know, he can't just be missing bits of his pituitary gland. He has to be born without it.
Rebound in 12 hours, your child is going to die. And sitting there going, what? I mean, like your world goes black. Like you really, your world goes black. I remember falling to the floor and just screaming bloody murder and rolling on the floor. And I can disassociate now.
Fucking piss me off when you're trying to describe shit and you add a fucking cliche in there. You were screaming bloody murder. Where's the emotion when you said that? There isn't anything. There's nothing there. You're pissing me off. And now we go, oh, I've disassociated from this so I can talk about it so easy. That's not how it works, Katie. That's not how it works. Fuck.
So I can talk about it like it didn't happen, you know, probably because it was so traumatic. You know, but he survived. He did survive. Thank God. I mean, I'm not even religious, but that was like some divine intervention that day. Seriously. He should not have survived. And yeah, I mean, it was very surreal. I felt like I was living in an alternate universe where I had brought my sick baby to the hospital and I just thought he had a cold, to your child is so deathly ill that he's probably not going to survive. Like,
sorry I keep butting in, but fuck. if your child stops breathing, you don't take your child, like, she doesn't think he's just got the cold. She's just making up bullshit.
I don't think I even understood how sick he was until that point. And the doctor was so matter of fact, and I hated that doctor for a really long time. He ended up being our pulmonologist for years following that. But I still remember having to see him after, and I would start shaking because I was so scared of him, because I was convinced he was going to like bring me news that like my son was going to die. But, you know, I see a lot of people. I think the reason why I want to start talking about this more is that I don't want to invade my son's privacy by sharing this, but I want people to have space to realize that like there's zero reason for any mother to ever make this up. I feel like we are so cruel to moms that have sick children. We accuse them of doing things wrong. We accuse them of causing illnesses. We accuse them of not doing enough. And it's just not fair. I don't want to invade my son's privacy by sharing this, but I want people to have space to realize that like there's zero reason for any mother to ever make this up. I feel like we are so cruel to moms that have sick children. We accuse them of doing things that like there's zero reason for any mother to ever make this up. I feel like we are so cruel to moms that have sick children. We accuse them of doing things wrong. We accuse them of causing illnesses. We accuse them of not doing enough. And it's just not fair. Unless you've had a child that's this sick, you would never understand what it's like to live this life. And you don't, it's hard not to, I don't know, it's easy to judge what you don't know, I guess is what I'm saying. And particularly, there's just been this, all of this kind of came to a head. There's so much mom shaming. It's so shameful is what I'm saying. And particularly, there's just been this, all of this kind of came to a head. There's so much mom shaming. It's so shameful and it's sad. So there's this other YouTuber, her name, and I understand people don't always like her. Her channel is Brittany and Baby, and some people just literally hate her. But I feel like right now she has been like so unjustly targeted by these haters, like accusing her of just being a shitty mom and not being there for her son. And her son has Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And it's like these people who know nothing about what's going on in her life are like accusing her of not doing enough for her son and not understanding the condition and being, you know, ignorant or stupid or lackadaisical. And it just made me think about some of the comments I've received. And it's heartbreaking when you see another mama who has a kiddo that's sick. And Duchenne's is a terminal illness, but it's also not terminal tomorrow, right? These kids can live into their teens. And a lot of them are now, a lot of individuals with Duchenne's are living into their 30s and 40s. So yes, you'll ultimately die from the disease, but it's not terminal today. So while they're living, it's trying to make the best of their living. And I think sometimes people just forget that moms that are going through this are going through this. And sometimes we don't want to tell everything. We don't want to say everything. We don't want to give you guys everything. And I feel like she's just been so relentlessly attacked from people. And it's like, you don't have to like her, but man, just like leave her alone about her kid. It makes me sad. Like, why would you attack another mom that has a child with a disability? And then if you tell anyone that the child has,
well, I don't know, Katie. Let's ask you that question. Fuck. I'm starting to tune out, but I've just got to continue. Like, she hasn't once thought about what the trauma she went through, what her son went through. Like I said in the last video, kids, like newborns in the NICU, their brains develop differently to kids that are able to go home and aren't around, or the clinical equipment, the bright lights really fuck up like the whole brain. Like my brain wants to get out of here, but no, we are continuing. We're going to press play.
a disability, they say it's not a disability, it's a terminal illness. You know, it's like, well, first off, have you met a kid with Duchenne's? You don't, if a kid has Duchenne's, they say it's not a disability. But man, just like leave her alone about her kid. It makes me sad. Like, why would you attack another mom that has a child with a disability? And then if you tell anyone that the child has a disability, they say it's not a disability, it's a terminal illness. You know, it's like, well, first off, have you met a kid with Duchenne's? You don't, if a kid has Duchenne's, do you literally say to them, you're dying? No. You don't treat a child with an illness like that like they're at death's door. You give them the best life you can while they had it. And you don't shame a mother that has a child that's in that position. My son could easily fall into that same position. He has so many illnesses. So many illnesses that could take his life early. So
Yeah, on that note, Katie, we should talk about how yelling, how a parent yelling at a child that suffers from adrenal insufficiency could cause him to go into adrenal crisis. But your husband doesn't seem to care about that, does he? So, I don't know, to continue on. You seem to know what you're talking about. Also, is she saying it right? Deshens? Because I can see it. I don't think I've ever attempted to try and say it, but it doesn't sound right. Sounds a bit bland. No, his pituitary gland wasn't damaged by the fluid in his brain. No, because the hydrocephalus is part of having spina bifida. And so that's like the fluid buildup. But the pituitary gland is actually formed within the first 28 days of pregnancy. So whatever happened in the first 28 days of Katie being pregnant really, the stuff just, it didn't form properly. But yeah. Hydrocephalus. Oh my gosh.
So, I just feel like people would be so much kinder and empathetic if they spent more time being kind, being thoughtful. And sometimes that means we just have to share our stories. So I want to do more of that. And I don't want to do that because I feel like I can change the world, but I feel like sometimes opening the door for one person to share their story, opening your door to share your story will help other people share theirs. And I would rather be at this place of helping other people and focusing on that positive aspect. And that's why I want to do more on this platform for that. I know I have so many moms of children that have disabilities, or I know I have a lot of people with disabilities that follow me. And I just want you to know, like, I know you feel invisible. You feel like no one sees you. You feel alone. You feel like you have no one rooting for you. You feel like you have no friends. You feel like the world has forgotten about you, but I didn't forget about you. And I won't forget about you. And if we have a place and a space where we can share, you have spina bifida. My son has a form of, so spina bifida is the most common form of what's called a neural tube defect. Neural tubes are the first cells that form when you are in utero. And it happens right when the egg and the sperm form the cell, and the cell splits. And when that cell splits, it forms the neural tube. And if the neural tube doesn't form correctly, so many issues can happen. Spina bifida is one where the spine isn't fully closed, and you can have various forms of spina bifida. You can have spina bifida where it's open at the top. You can have spina bifida where it's open at the bottom of the back, or you can have spina bifida where the spine is inside and the vertebrae aren't closed. And we haven't been able to do a full scan of my son's back, but when he had his decompression surgery a few years ago, she said that his vertebrae weren't fused. So he had a gap like this big or so in between his vertebrae. So that could actually be a form of spina bifida. It's not as serious as the other forms. But when you have a neural tube defect, a lot of things can happen, including your pituitary gland not forming, you're having hydrocephalus, having Chiari malformation, having a heart defect, having low muscle tone. It's how the brain basically develops. And when the neural tube doesn't develop correctly, a lot of people have brain abnormalities. That vertebrae issue is called spina bifida occulta. Thank you. I knew it was something like that.
Oh, she went to put her hand up like she had got it right in class. Because, she's always fishing. She doesn't really know what she's talking about, but as long as she's in the ballpark. What did I come in to say? But I think that it also, some responsibility does rely on how the parent raises the child, because if you're going to sit there like Katie and constantly talk negative and only remind the child that he's sick, then, the development is going to be a bit fucked up. My mum never fucking let me know that I was a little bit behind the world. Even though I managed to get through school and everything, but I think it was just like reading probably was what made my brain grow. But my mum was just such an opposite mum to Katie, such a caring, everything for the kids kind of mum. But also when I went through my premature birth, because I was in the NICU and I didn't get the skin-to-skin contact, because it wasn't seen as important as what it is now. I have like attachment issues. So like especially with my mum could not put me down when I was a baby. Like I would just cry. I always needed to be near her. I needed that skin-to-skin contact, like I was fiending for it. And then imagine having a mum like Katie and going through that. Oh my gosh.
Maybe, yeah, spina bifida occulta. Yeah. So he has his spine, the vertebrae are open. So neural tube defects can happen from anything. And it's not just from low folate. Like you can take your prenatals and have all of that folate in your body and still end up having a child that has a neural tube defect. It's literally just that the neural tube didn't form correctly while it was splitting. It's like a fluke. That's how my doctors explained it. That's how my son's doctors explained it. It's like you roll the dice and you are the one that rolls the millionth, 1 in a millionth kind of thing. My son's disease is 1 in 500,000. To be born without a pituitary gland is 1 in 500,000. It is so.
I don't believe that's true. Remember when she said this in the lounge room downstairs and Toad corrected her? I can't remember, but it's more like 1 in 200,000 or something. But, Katie, she probably only slept with one person and then made it, tripled it, times it by 3. That has nothing to do with it. I don't even know why I said that. Gosh, the top is annoying me. Is it maybe meant to be worn off both shoulders? And she just does not have the width in her shoulders to wear. She also does not have the neck. Like, that's not a décolleté. Like, that she needs to go and get a massage.
So rare. It's more common for someone to develop a pituitary disease from a tumor. Thank you for your badge. Oh, mental health journal. Well, you are welcome here. So we have hydrocephalus. He has a shunt. We have had to do multiple. We had to do a tap in June. We had to walk around with having his an ICP monitor in June. We have had, so that's 3 brain surgeries for the shunt. He has had a Chiari decompression. He's had heart surgery. He has a feeding tube. It's a lot. He has low muscle tone. Shunt taps hurt. Well, he actually they went under for his shunt tap. For kids, they don't usually tap it because it's just too traumatic. Oh, thank you guys for buying badges. I appreciate it. At the end of the day, I feel like there's so much misinformation, and it's like I've been afraid to share a lot about what's going on with him, obviously to respect his privacy, but I feel like
to respect his privacy. Katie, but you haven't even spoken about him. It's all you. And the way you've spoken, it's like third person. You're just so, what the fuck? I can't believe you talk in third person. It's fucked up. Isn't that a sign that maybe there's some you haven't done any fucking therapy. That's what I'm trying to say. There was something else I was going to say, but every time I look at the screen, I'm thrown off by the top. Maybe she should have got an extra small. Extra small. Do you reckon it's from Amy's shop? Does Amy do returns? Or once you buy, sorry, we don't take back? Especially from you, Katie.
I don't know. There's always been so much questions from people that don't know me about, you know, me faking this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, no one would fake this. Literally. If you could not have to deal with the stuff that's happening in our lives, you wouldn't wish this on your worst enemy, but you also still love your child. You still like love the
You. Speak for your fucking self. Stop speaking for everyone else, because you are not the person that everyone's looking to find out about premature births. My God. I was going to say, fuck, what was I going to say? Oh, how people question it. People only question you, Katie, because the story continues to change. You elaborate. Time is never really ever in line with you. You have no fucking idea. If you had to sit down and do a timeline, put all your articles there, everything's overlapping. And Katie, if you fucking understood anything that you've just said in this stream, then maybe your child would not be on a feeding tube, because you would understand the low muscle tone, the like oral motor skills that need to be worked on in therapy, the digestive system that's semi-paralyzed from the spina bifida. What the fuck? You didn't know this in 2015 when you wrote the article about complaining about sitting there for an hour and a half, 3 hours sometimes, trying to coerce your son to eat, and then just giving up and just giving him Cheetos and grapes with skin, because that's what a 2-year-old really wants to eat. You are a parent to look up to aspire to. My God, I hope you release the parenting book with diagrams, please.
The community of the people that are in your life. You love all of the people that are going through the same thing. You become connected to the moms that you meet in the hospital that have children that are going through the same things. You just figure out like how to, I have spinal taps all the time. I have an adult onset hydrocephalus. Yeah. Yeah, nobody knows what it's like to be a special needs parent except for special needs parents. But special needs isn't just like developmental disabilities. And I feel like, and yes, my son has autism, but autism, I always say, like, in the grand scheme of things, autism is like so low on our totem pole in terms of our issues, that, you know, we're dealing with so many other things. And I feel like,
Katie, your child is special needs. What the fuck? Does she think special needs is only cognitive development? Katie, come on. You just said it yourself. She has no fucking idea.
like, so many people blame the moms for everything. Well, you did this, so it caused your child to be sick, or you did that because it made your child sick, or you must not have taken your prenatals, or you were on drugs when you were doing this, or you were doing that. And it's like, you don't even realize many people blame the mom, except for special needs parents. But special needs isn't just like developmental disabilities. And I feel like, and yes, my son has autism, but autism, I always say, like, in the grand scheme of things, autism is like so low on our totem pole in terms of our issues, that, you know, we're dealing with so many other things. And I feel like so many people blame the moms for everything. Well, you did this, so it caused your child to be sick, or you did that because it made your child sick, or you must not have taken your prenatals, or.
Why are you holding on to your face like that, Katie? Are you trying to comfort yourself? Well, we know you can't feel that side of your face. You do like to rub it when you're not rubbing the forehead. Is that a bit weird? When what you're saying and what you're doing with your hands right now, you're trying to comfort yourself, like, it's okay. We all know that you wouldn't have done anything bad to cause it, Katie, not you. Is it your inner guilt that needs to be held? Maybe there's some truth there. I just need to play it back one more time.
Or you were on
that, you know, we're dealing with so many other things. And I feel like so many people blame the moms for everything. Well, you did this, so it caused your child to be sick, or you did that because it made your child sick, or you must not have taken your prenatals, or you were on drugs when you were doing this, or you were doing that. And it's like, you don't even realize, like, why do we shame moms?
Are you aware of what you've written in your articles, Mrs. Paulson? Do you know that you have said that you, for over 20 years of your adult life, you have spent binge drinking? Yeah. I just want to say, like, I've always said that kind of the only thing that you and Toad had in common was that you got drunk together, because you don't really listen to his passions, what he's into, his music. You're not into it. You don't like Kiss. Like, who the fuck doesn't like Kiss? That's right, someone who's judgmental of everyone. Mm-hmm.
Because your kid ended up with a disability. It literally can happen to anyone at any time, anywhere, with anyone. And I always tell people, like, whenever people say to me that, well, we've gone through stuff, but it's nothing like what you have, I always want to tell people, like, don't pity us, don't pity me. Like, what you go through is what you go through. Everyone has shit they're going through. Every family has shit they're going through. You know, your shit, your ear infection, it might be the most serious thing that you deal with for your child. And
sorry to cut in on your blocking spree, Katie. I just wanted to say that. What did I want to say? Don't leave me. My thought. It will come.
Your shit, your ear infection, it might be the most serious thing that you deal with for your child.
8 ear infections in 6 months. 8 ear infections in 6 months, and you didn't look into it. A lot of the stuff that was going on with your son, Katie, you didn't bother to research. So you're all up to date now with what prem babies are and what the stuff that we have not formed properly and our muscles underdeveloped and all of that. You didn't know that in 2015, but you know that now. A little bit late, isn't it? You're just so sure. But you don't know shit. And if you did, your son wouldn't be on a feeding tube, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
And you know, you don't have to I lost my train of thought. I was reading a comment that I'm not responding to. Oh, everyone's heart is different, but it's all valid. Exactly. So I just think we all just need to be kinder. And I think that when I feel like sharing things, I'll share them. And I think when I don't feel like sharing things, I don't share them. And I feel like if I change my mind about sharing his information, I change my mind. But you can't build awareness if you hold in and you don't share. You don't build empathy and compassion for people if you hide behind shame. And if I have a platform sharing his information, I change my mind. I just think we all just need to be kinder. And I think that when I feel like sharing things, I'll share them. And I think when I don't feel like sharing things, I don't share them. And I feel like if I change my mind about sharing his information, I change my mind.
But you can't build awareness if you hold in and you don't share. You don't build empathy and compassion for people if you hide behind shame. And if I have a platform to help other people and build awareness.
If her tongue had little googly eyes on it, just popping up, because that's the truth. Popped up twice then. Can we go back one more time? Oh, I'm just really enjoying the body language right now.
I want to do that. Compassion for, and you don't share. You don't build empathy and compassion for people if you hide behind shame. And if I have a platform to help other people and build awareness, I want to do that. You know, if I want to tell people what's going on in my life, I'll tell them. And when I don't have to. And I share what I want when I want, you know, and I feel like everyone should feel like they have that space to do that. And I feel like, I'm so grateful for all of you guys that give me the space to share openly. There are so many more of you that are positive and loving and amazing. And I am focusing on all of that. So I am going to promise, and I promise to you guys all that.
Sorry, it's time for the dogs to go to the toilet break, but she's so insecure in herself. You can see it right there. Like, one comment has thrown her off. She can't handle someone objecting to what she's saying. Probably someone with actual facts, not gone to Wiki and just got the general idea. God, she's so fucking annoying. Well, I knew this, but
that's where my focus is going to be. It's where I'm going to continue to be and what I'm going to do. And so I'm going to do a World Prematurity Day video tomorrow for my channel. And I think if you have a story that you want to share, you can send me a DM. Thank you, guys.
Look at that. Look at that. It's so white. Like, the walls aren't as green. Okay. I got to get that off. I'm going to get that off the screen. I was going to say something. What was I going to say? As usual, she's throwing me off. My brain just wants to get up and go. Oh, I can't even think. I was thinking though that like, we should talk about should we go and watch the next one? I should go and find it. I should have a look. No, this is not the one where she's horrible to the lady in the chat. That's on Survivor Day. This is November 17, 2020. World Premi Day. Okay, guys, I need to go to the toilet. So I'm going to just put the pit stop music on. I'll be right back, and then we can talk about it and see what we're going to do. Where's my pit stop? I haven't used it in so long.
Oh, 1 mile in fog patches and showers early Friday, but improving to greater than 6 miles on Friday morning.
Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper that sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer. Night breezes seem to whisper
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Actually, I wasn't on the toilet for that long. I found the video that she did the next day, and I don't know if it's on Katie Joy Live or it was on Without a Crystal Ball, but did you guys just want to continue on and watch that? I feel like I didn't get a lot of info in the last one. I feel like I've been ripped off. Like, where's... Anyway, so this one, like the front of the, like, the thumbnail, I think this is where she goes through the premi clothes. But should we continue or should we stop? Who wants to make an executive condition? Ugh, I can't even talk. Maybe I should just press play, or I should just bring it in. At least we are not doing half shoulder. No, she doesn't have Katie Joy Live anymore. She had to delete it for part of the Tati settlement, but I have most of the videos from there. Just because I'm a weirdo. I'm a weirdo and I took them, and that's what I did. Oh, today was a really hard day. So yeah, and it says November 18, but then I'm guessing it even might be, is it the same day? You wouldn't think so. Sorry, my brain was just thinking. Okay. I'm just going to press play. I love it when she forgets to turn the mic on. It's so good. Look at her. When are you going to look down? When are you going to look down?
Okay, you guys should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me? I might not have had sound. Let me double check. No sound for a second. All right. You guys should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me? Perfect. 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 Welcome, everyone. Sorry, I was having a little bit of trouble. Like I was just saying before, I upgraded my system for my Mac computer yesterday. And when I did that, the new system, which is called like Big Sewer, it's actually not compatible with my operating like streaming system called OBS. So I am using a different streaming system, which is called Streamlabs OBS. And this one works, but the OBS one doesn't. But I'm still trying to get through and figure out all the details. So hey guys, welcome. So today was one of those days where I was supposed to do a bunch of content, right? But yesterday I told you how I was going to be doing a few different things on this platform. And this was nothing that was like decided on recently. I did a video several weeks ago and let you guys know that my goal with this platform, and always has been with this platform, is to not only use it for giving you guys tea, but also to bring awareness to different things. And today is World Prematurity Day. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I woke up this morning and I was like, all right, I need to remember stuff, right? Because part of the process of when you go through an experience like this, I can't say this is for everyone, is World Prematurity Day. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I woke up this morning and I was like, all right, I need to remember stuff, right? Because part of the process of when you go through an experience like this, I can't say this is for everyone, but this was just my experience, is that you don't always remember everything. Some of the stuff that happens, you kind of just stuff it down. It's really hard to remember. It's really painful to remember, and you don't want to. But then you also know that if you share that information and you can help build awareness, there's some importance to that. So before I made my video earlier, which you can watch, it's a more like a bigger outline kind of like what it was like with my, pregnancy and then delivery and experience with my son. It's been sort of this last 24 hours of reliving all of that. And it's hard because even though it happened 8 years ago, it's still very fresh in my mind. Because if I think of it this way, 8 years ago, we were actually still in the hospital with him. 8 years ago, we didn't have any answers for him. 8 years ago, I was a brand new mom, very confused, very out of my element, not understanding anything. And I don't always go there because it's hard. But I also was like, well, it's a really big day and there's so much that needs to be done. And there's this whole world that nobody knows about because nobody talks about it, because nobody, like, it's just this weird little world, right? So in order to put together that video, I had to go through all of my records, right? So I had to go over to my OB's, like my online records with my OB, and like look through all of my test results to remember like what happened, what week was it, what were my levels, what was going on, who was there, what was happening. And that brought back so many emotions because I was like, oh my gosh, looking at the labs. I remember sitting there in the stress lab. So if you have a high risk pregnancy, they typically will set you up in a room, and then they have to put like monitors on your stomach, and they do what's called stress testing, which is basically making sure that the heartbeat of the baby is totally fine, that there's nothing wrong with him. And we had to do that 3 times a week, which was stressful because you are concerned that your baby, you want to get your baby to the due date, but then you also know that your body is like not allowing you to go there, right? So reading through all of that was like super stressful. And then, you know, going through my son's old stuff and like remembering, you know, all of the things that we went through. And then I was looking through stuff in bins, right? So tiny little hats, right? So what they don't tell you about babies that are born premature is that their heads, they have a really hard time keeping their body temperature. And so they wear these little hats. And it's so they keep their heads warm because the majority of your heat actually escapes through your head. And so the little, like, look at how tiny these are. I mean, he fit in these. So little, like, it's really cute. There was this group of like senior citizen women that all got together certain days of the week, and they would knit these little hats. And your little boy or girl could wear them. And my neighbor, my next door neighbor, actually had this handmade because we were Vikings fans. But then I started looking through his box, because a lot of people will tell you that you'll have sort of a keepsake box of your stay in the NICU, things that are sort of your memories of what your time was like when you were there.
Katie, you remember where your ultrasound photos were though? I mean, you might have a Premi box with all your memories and stuff, but your ultrasound pictures you found in a random beer box down in the basement, you know, the one that you were going through, that you showed all those pictures of people and your friends, and yeah, more.
And I found his tiny little diapers. This is a newborn. I mean, and this was really big on him. So like, look at how tiny that is. Then I was like, oh my gosh, I found an outfit that he used to wear. This is a newborn. It used to be so big on him. Like, I remember getting this as a gift in the mail from a friend, and I thought, oh, he'll never be in a newborn, you know? And this was a preemie size. I'm sorry, this is a preemie size, but this was still super big on him when he was born. So like his feet didn't even touch in here. Like, that's how little he was. He was only 17 inches tall when he was born, which is little. Like, I had another.
How annoying would that jumpsuit be on a premature baby? Just, you have to take it off every time to change the nappy. And like she said, premature babies, we can't regulate our temperature. So great mothering there. That's a great thing. This is great, isn't it? I don't know. The beanies kind of threw me a bit. I don't know what else is in the box. I'm scared what's in her box. I'm scared of this show and tell.
Friend who had not a friend, but someone from a mommy board that had a 35-weeker. And by comparison, her son was 21 inches long. And then I was looking through some other stuff, and I found, so one of the things that we had to go through while we were in the hospital was he had to have his first Halloween while he was in the hospital. So we got him this tiny little tiger outfit for his first Halloween. And it says my first Halloween. And this was a newborn size. And I remember that it was 2 weeks after his birth, and this was still super big on him. So another thing I found was my old burping rag that you get in the hospital. If anyone is familiar with the hospital, you'll like recognize these little stripes. Like, they have specific towels. And then another thing they give you in the NICU are these little tag blankets. So it's like, there's so much of this stuff that I was like looking through today, and I was like, oh my goodness, life has surely come very far. But it's also like, yeah, he was a totally tiny little tiger. It was so cute. It was really adorable. So, the last 8 years have been a whirlwind, right? Because you go from, and look at this tiny little jacket he wore. How did he have this tiny little jacket? And I think this is a size, this is the last 8 years have been a whirlwind, right? Because you go from, and look at this tiny little jacket he wore. How did he have this tiny little jacket? And I think this is a size, this is a 3 months. This was probably humongous on him.
Oh my God, she just wiped her nose on that. I shit myself when I bring it back and do slow, but I needed to check that there was a wipe there and she fully wiped her nose. Oh my God. That is disgusting, man. That is disgusting.
So yeah, he was and then he had this other tiny little hat for Vikings. We were big Vikings fans. So I was going through all of his stuff and all of his keepsakes, and I was like, there's probably other mamas out there that were in this world too, that also have gone through the same experience, that have probably felt the same way I have, that have gone through the mix of emotions. And I don't know that when I was putting together today's video that I was really expecting that it would like hit me as hard as it did. I don't think that I was really expecting that it would sort of send me into this like place of holy moly, I can't believe this is like what my life was like kind of thing, like this was where we lived, this is what we were doing, this is where we were at for such a long time, this is what our life became, this is who we were. It's weird. Even remembering the pumping in the middle of the night, getting up at 3 a.m. and having my pump machine on and having to pump like every 3 hours so that I could maintain my milk, because in the NICU, they tell you so much. You have to give them milk. They need milk. They need milk. Like they tell you so much that preemies need milk, to the point where they will do fortified milk where they will add formula to increase the calories, but they really want the babies to have the colostrum. So they really urge you, if at all possible, to pump as much as possible. And so my son was in the hospital. He couldn't nurse, so we had to do almost everything via bottle. And then he also had a little NG tube. And I remember I would like come to the hospital every day with just like this ton of milk, right? And the nurses would be like, don't show that to the other moms. And I'd be like, well, what do you mean? They're like, there's a lot of moms here that are not producing, they can't produce, and because of the stress. And so try to like come in and be like, cover it up just so you don't make anyone else feel bad. You're an overproducer. That's what.
I wonder if Katie had it in her heart to donate some. Probably not. She doesn't tend to think of other people.
What they would always say to me, like, you're overproducing because of your body. Like how the NICU nurses described it to me is that some moms with stress, they stop producing because it's just so much for them. And then other moms, they overproduce because their bodies feel like they need to do everything that they can to like help their child. And so my body was of the body that overproduced. Like I was pumping so much that at the end, we ended up donating nearly all of our milk. But they also would use donor milk for those little babies that couldn't get milk. And so it was always such an interesting experience being a part of all of this, because I'd be like so stunned, by all of this, and the pumping, the bottles, the pumping bags, you guys. Yeah, breast milk is definitely easier on their tummies, but it also provides antibodies. So one of the biggest things with preemies is that they have higher risk of infection and higher risk of developing infections, and they have lower immunity. So breast milk offers the natural antibodies that the mom has and that the mom can transfer to the child. So it helps with not only their brain development, because the colostrum helps with their brain development, but it also gives them actual antibody help to help them fight specific infections before they can get vaccinated, because preemies cannot be vaccinated typically until they get to certain sizes. So your typical but it also gives them actual like antibody help to help them fight specific infections before they can get vaccinated, because preemies cannot be vaccinated typically until they get to certain sizes. So your typical like, I'm going to go this and get these shots, it all gets delayed because you're waiting for the baby to sort of grow, but they also need to be kept in a bubble and you need to keep them safe. So it's kind of a lot when you think about it. And it's been one of those days where I'm just like, I can't believe this is what my life used to be like. I can't believe this is where we were at. And I still remember, now this specific hat is one that I love, but I also have a very, he was wearing this outfit the day that we took him home from the hospital. And one thing they don't really tell you is that sometimes preemies come back to the hospital. So they'll be doing really well and they'll be ready to be discharged, and then they'll have a setback. There can be a lot of different things that have them have a setback. They can have something that was chronically lingering that they hadn't found yet, which is what happened with my son. One of my girlfriends, her daughter ended up getting RSV.
Well, Katie, in your article, you say that you just screamed and begged the doctors to let you take your son home. And finally, they let you do that. And then when you got home, he was still sick and you had to take him back. And then you were like, was it because I took him home? Should I not have done that? Was that just a story like everything else? Just saying, I just want to know. I'm confused.
Another one of my friends, they had some issues with oxygenation. And so the baby was having like too many apneic spells at home. So they had to like bring him back into the hospital. So they can discharge, but they can also end up back in the hospital. And that's what happened to us. So we were home for around 7 weeks after spending 7 weeks in the hospital. And then we went back to the hospital for 3.5 more weeks. And my son was wearing this tiny little hat on his head and he stopped breathing at home. And it was really, really scary. And he had this little onesie.
She better not be going to tell the story that he stopped breathing at home and she was there. Katie had already gone back to work. Maternity leave was over. It was Toad that was giving V a bottle. Let's listen to what she says.
That he wore with it that matched this. And so like, I don't get rid of this because I kind of want to remember like what happened that day as sort of like this is what you had on and you completely kicked butt, like you survived. It was one of those days where I don't think that whole day I'll never forget. But, you know, the biggest fear we had when we got discharged was the doctors basically saying, well, if we miss something and he ends up coming back, you know, that can happen. And that's exactly what happened. And so we missed a humongous thing. Like they missed a huge, huge diagnosis that could have really, really changed a lot of things for him and for like his treatment. Like he probably would have been he probably wouldn't have spent as much time in the NICU had they determined what was going on with him when he was born. So they caught some of the stuff, like they figured out a few of the things while we were in the NICU. They found the congenital heart stuff, and they were on the right track with the liver thing. So I was telling you in the previous video that his liver wasn't working and they didn't know why. Well, that was because his thyroid wasn't working. So he doesn't have a pituitary gland, and they didn't know that. There was a lot of weird things that were happening with him in the NICU, like his blood.
Stop saying that. Stop saying that he doesn't have a pituitary gland, because you know that's not true, Katie. Your son's going to like be at school one day and he's like, yeah, I don't have a pituitary gland. And the kids are going to laugh because fuck. He has a faulty one. He has one that doesn't produce the hormones that are needed. It just doesn't work, but he has one. Fuck, Katie, you pissed me off.
Blood sugar was dipping a lot, and they attributed that to being a premature baby. Their blood sugars are all over the place. He had a hard time regulating his body temperature. That is also a product of having a low, two things, low cortisol and low thyroid. Well, they also attributed that to premature babies because premature babies also have a hard time regulating their temperatures. He also had a hard time regulating his blood sugar, which again can happen with preemies. So a lot of the things that he was going through, they believed were just typical preemie stuff, but then it wasn't really resolving.
There's your answer, Katie. So it wouldn't have shown up in the tests till later on in his development. If they had picked it up sooner. Blaming doctors here, but we all know what you didn't pick up and what you didn't pick up for 3 years. So I've touched on that. I might have to make that the next street that I go down. Right now we're focusing on the feeding, and you just are so misfactual. But you didn't have any of these facts when he was 3 and you were struggling to feed him, and you did not once mention anything to do with premature babies. So what the fuck? Can you even relate what you're saying to your son? Or is it just a bunch of words because there's no real connection to anything? That's just what I see, in my opinion, Miss Leaf.
So long story short, that day in January, it was the same day I went back to work after 6 months away from work, is when he had his adrenal crash. And so they didn't know that he was adrenal insufficient. And so that's how we all kind of figured it out, because he got a cold and then he developed an adrenal crisis, which caused his blood sugar to dip and his heart rate to plummet, and kind of all of that stuff happened. And he ended up on life support. So
because he caught whooping cough because someone wasn't vaccinated, and then the whooping cough turned into something else because there was bad hygiene, around him, bacteria. I'll go into that another time, but I have touched on it. I'll leave the playlist of the articles that I've done.
it was the second round in the hospital was really tough, more so than the first go round, because I wasn't really, the first go round, we were there just trying to make sure that he would eat and that he would, eat and swallow and suck and, grow and suck, swallow, breathe, they say. We were hopeful that he would learn all of that stuff and that his jaundice would stuff. But the second time in the hospital was a completely different story, because we had no idea if he was going to survive or not. So he did survive, thankfully. And but what we went through is what a lot of people in the NICU go through. They have an experience like that where they almost lose their child, or they do lose their child. Yesterday, I had a subscriber reach out to me, and she actually shared a video that she made about losing one of her babies that was a 25-week preemie. And so there are amazing stories like ours where we had a incident where he almost lost his life, which is not uncommon with premature birth. And then there are babies like my subscriber who went through a loss. So there's like amazing triumphs, and then there's such great heartbreak. And so it's like, really, that's why I wanted to make sure that this day was kept around this specific topic. D. Ismay, thank you for your super chat. And I understand that this is not, again, typical content for this channel, but it's really important to me that this channel not just be about tea, but it also be about getting back to really what I do. And it's never just been about stories. It's also been about stories about our life, because we have so much that happens in our life that we just don't talk about, we don't share. And heck, if sharing the story can help another family feel like alone, not so alone. Like yesterday, for instance, I did an Instagram live where I talked about neural tube defects, which is what my son has. So an NTD, which is like a common, well, not super common, but it's something that happens when the two cells meet. So when the egg and the swimmer meets, they create a cell, and then the cell splits, and the cell sort of like goes down like this, and it creates like the body, and it creates the midline of the body. And when the neural tube doesn't develop correctly, anything that's on the midline can not develop correctly. And that's what happened to my son. So his pituitary didn't develop correctly. He developed hydrocephalus.
That's a great one. But I was just, what does she think the midline is? I need to go back. It looked like she was Moses with the Red Sea. No, I don't even know. I just said words there. If I got that right, that is just brilliant.
They create a cell, and then the cell splits. When the egg, an NTD, which is like a common, well, not super common, but it's something that happens when the two cells meet. So when the egg and the swimmer meets, they create a cell, and then the cell splits, and the cell sort of like goes down like this, and it creates like the body, and it creates the midline of the.
Katie, your midline is your fucking waist. What the fuck is she talking? I want to go slower than point. I want to go to, I want to go to like 0.5, but I don't want to torture everyone. But it's just, she doesn't know what she's saying here. Your midline? She thinks the midline is the spine. If they were saying that, they'd say the spine. Because in spina bifida, like I said, from my waist down, because I have partial spina bifida, like I have a big lump lower in my back. And yeah, so I've got like weak legs, weak digestive system, and yeah, everything's just weak. And yeah, stomach protrudes because I can't hold, like, got no core muscles. But now I'm more aware of it. But when I was, when I was younger, I wasn't really aware of it. And I call them my penguin days, but penguin from Batman, that's what I mean when I say penguin. One of my favorite characters ever.
Body. And when the egg, where I talked about neural tube defects, which is what my son has. So an NTD, which is like a common, well, not super common, but it's something that happens when the two cells meet. So when the egg and the swimmer meets.
I just want to say quickly, yeah, she's so awkward about sex. Still, she can't say sperm. She has to say the little swimmer. Like a little adolescent teenager. When you couldn't even watch tampon ads without giggling. Remember those days? Did anyone else go through that, or was that just me? Because I was awkward.
They create a cell, and then the cell splits, and the cell sort of like.
Notice how the cell split and then it went in? I wonder if she breaks chocolate by pushing it in, like maybe she does it backwards. I don't know, maybe, because that's not how you split stuff.
Cells meet. So when the egg and the swimmer meets, they create a cell, and then the cell splits, and the cell sort of like goes down like this, and it creates like the body, and it creates the midline of the body. And when the neural tube doesn't develop correctly, anything that's on the midline can not develop correctly. And that's what happened to my son. So his pituitary didn't develop correctly. He developed hydrocephalus. He has issues with his spine. The most common form of an NTD is spina bifida. And it can happen.
But you just said in the other video that there's different forms of spina bifida, and your son has like a different one to everyone else, or something like that. Now it's a different story. I wonder if this has to be the next day or the night. I don't know, because she did talk about getting up in the morning. So I don't know.
Randomly, most often it's random. There's certain things that can help reduce it, like folate, but folate alone and prenatal vitamins cannot stop it from happening because it happens randomly. And it happens before you even know that you're pregnant because the neural tube is literally like the first thing that happens with the cellular development.
No, it's one of the last things to develop, but for premature children, I mean, premature babies, they're born premature, so they don't get that last few weeks. So it's not developed fully. It's one of the last things to develop. Katie, what the fuck? One of the first things to develop is the pituitary gland and all that, the cognitive stuff. So, God, my mouth does me fucking justice, doesn't it? My mouth is such a letdown. I have like a professional career, like when I just use my brain and just write reports. My mouth is my letdown. Okay, continuing on with this torture show. I just want to watch the whole thing in slow motion.
So my son's development just started with the NTD with the neural tube not developing correctly. So we don't have a syndrome. That was one question. Someone said, like, does your son have a syndrome? No, he does not. He just has a midline issue, and it's not super.
He probably has partial spinal bifida. It's pretty obvious because he had the protruding stomach, Katie. I wonder what the doctor or the therapist told you, the one that told you how to strap the stomach, which that was not done right, but you tried to explain that on Facebook. So I wonder what that therapist was telling you then about the weakness in the abdominal walls. Would that not correspond to maybe a weakness in the digestive system? So maybe I would go on the computer and do investigating. I have a really bad problem saying investigative. Yeah, it's going to kill me the rest of my whole life. I can never say it. Do your investigating journalist stuff that you're just so up there, going to get the next journalist award. Throw myself off again. To the left, to the left.
Uncommon in terms of like how it can happen, but it's definitely got its own challenges. But I was really feeling a lot of comfort yesterday because there was someone in my chat on Instagram basically saying like, I have spina bifida. And then they sent me a message and they privately said to me, like, I can't believe, like, I was crying listening to you describe spina bifida because I've never had anyone publicly be able to describe what spina bifida is and do it so in a way that's so like educating. Like, people don't realize that it literally happens when the neural tube develops.
People don't realize that it literally happens when the neural tube doesn't. Then that's where like my brain like stops, doesn't develop properly. Everyone knows this. That's literally what happens. Oh my God, Katie, you didn't know. It's all good to have this information now and be able to sit there and show everyone, look at all my information, my diagrams, my midline. She's directing traffic. Everyone continue down the midline. Imagine Katie on a plane giving directions where the exits are. Straight down the midline. She'd have like fucking like pointing fingers going everywhere. She'd be pointing to the roof going, make sure you all take your, I don't know. But God, can you even, no, we wouldn't even be able to see her over the seats. God, imagine Katie on a plane. Okay.
And people with spina bifida can have a wide range of issues. My son, we think he has what's called spina bifida occulta, which means that the spinal column didn't form correctly. but there was no opening. And a spina bifida means there's an opening in the neural tube where it's not fully closed.
In the last video that we just watched, you said that there were holes in the vertebrae. There were gaps, which would... Now he's got the spine that sits inwards. I've seen his back. He does not have that, Katie. If he did, it'd be like an indent. It'd be like a, oh my God, like a gutter. You know what I mean? Like, what is you know what I mean? It would be indented where the spine is. And he doesn't have that, Katie. And because he can't control, because his stomach protrudes, he probably does have the lower fusion one. Probably a bit like me. Oh, because he does. He had really, really, really skinny legs when he was younger. And so did I. Like, my dad used to call me chicken. When you put, like, you know, oh my God, because I'm here going Penguin from Batman. My dad saw it all along. Chicken with my protruding belly. Oh my God. I wonder if they dressed me up as a chicken for Halloween in the NICU. I didn't get that fucking chance. I was like in the NICU for about 6 weeks. 2 of them I went where like people could only touch me with gloves on. Like there's a picture of my dad holding me, but like he's got like plastic gloves on and he's got his hands through those circles. Can't believe they were able to celebrate Halloween. How annoying would they be in the NICU? I mean, there's more important things than celebrating Halloween. But I got him this outfit and he has to wear it. Next year, he'll be too big. I got to take a photo. The amount of photos that she took in NICU as well. Like, not only is the child a newborn and looking up and getting all these bright hospital lights, because they hardly ever turn them off in the NICU as well. And then the mum's there like with her phone taking photos. How was she even allowed to have her phone turned on in there? Anyway, the last thing you would be doing, right, would be taking photos of, well, I guess a newborn. Okay.
So they can have a hole in their spine, in their lower back, or the top of their neck, depending on how it developed. So, and it can have a whole host of issues, a lot of surgeries. Some individuals with spina bifida are unable to walk. Some people are able to walk. They can have hydrocephalus. They can have Chiari malformation. It's a lot. So that's kind of what we deal with. So there's no syndrome. There's nothing genetically wrong with him. That's all we have. So I am at a point now where I just want to thank you guys for, you know, really continuing to stick with me and to be here with me.
Sorry, when she said there's nothing genetically wrong with him, that kind of stuck out because, well, yeah, there is the pituitarism. I probably butchered that, but I said it how it's sort of spelt, which is the overall diagnosis of his pituitary gland not producing like most, if not most, no, yeah. Brain, what the hell? My brain is cutting out. Yeah, most of the hormones aren't produced. That's the overall one. But yeah, that is often a genetic something. It's either genetic or there's like been trauma in the womb within a certain time. She throws me off every time. Every time. I got to not look at the screen.
I realize there is so much out there right now. And you know what? I'm just going to keep focused on what matters and who matters, and you all matter to me. So thank you guys so much for listening today, for sharing your stories, for, you know, being open. That's like what I've always loved about this community, is how amazing you guys are, how willing you guys are to share your hearts with everyone. I love that I've always had such a large population of moms that are raising children with special needs and or autism or chronic illnesses. I love that I have so many followers. That this was another cool story. Was another woman reached out to me, and she was very premature, and she has cerebral palsy, which is a common complication with premature birth. And she sent me a message, and she's like, "Thank you so much for sharing. Like, I am 30 years old and I have cerebral birth." And she sent me a message, and she's like, "Thank you so much for sharing. Like, I am 30 years old and I have cerebral palsy and I am wheelchair bound, but I have a fully independent life and I'm doing so great." And I'm like, it's nice to see other people sharing their stories. So you never really know, like, when you share your story, how it's going to impact other people. And that's why on World Prematurity Day, they say, share your story, because there's a lot of people out there that are fighting the same battles, and we're not alone, even though we feel like we are. I hope that makes sense. I shouldn't be, is it buffering? I hope it's not buffering. Anyways, I have to get going because my husband is got a headache and I need to get my son ready for bed. But I am so grateful to all of you that continue to support me, and just know we're going to keep on going and keep doing what we can do to, I don't know, have this community be the best that it can be. It's going to go, we're going to go through ebbs and flows. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be nothing. But what got me here, ultimately, what gave me my platform, was sharing the stories of raising my son, and just what it's like to live in this world. And I don't ever want to get so far removed from that. I don't ever want to I don't want to disassociate or disconnect from it. November is National Adoption Awareness Month. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. Some people were asking, like, why I'm talking about certain things and not talking about other things. And I have so many things that I always want to bring awareness to that specifically are dealing with our family because of all the complex issues with our family. But I'm always open to other suggestions. So if you have something that you want to build awareness to, the hardest part for me, though, is that it's hard for me to tell the story of somebody else. So it would have to be, if I'm going to do awareness for something else that doesn't relate to me, I'd have to.
Bullshit. It is so easy for you to take someone else's story and share it. That's why you want people to reach out, so then you can add that to your story, and it's just picture perfect then, isn't it? Just my opinion.
Have someone else come on and tell the story, because I'm not going to tell the story about, someone had asked me about how October was pregnancy loss, right? And I have never had a loss. That doesn't, and so I couldn't speak to that. The story about, someone had asked me about how October is something else, that things that I always want to bring awareness to that specifically are dealing with our family because of all the complex issues with our family. But I'm always open to other suggestions. So if you have something that you want to build awareness to, the hardest part for me, though, is that it's hard for me to tell the story of somebody else. So it would have to be, if I'm going to do awareness for something else that doesn't relate to me, I'd have to have someone else come on and tell the story, because I'm not going to tell the story about, someone had asked me about how October was pregnancy loss, right? And I have never had a loss. That doesn't, and so I couldn't speak to that. While I find it so tragic and sad for those women that do experience it, it's never something I've experienced. I've only ever had one pregnancy, and it turned into a preterm birth. So I've only been pregnant one time. So there's so many different things. Oh, Abigail says she's wheelchair bound too. Well,
Whoa, did she almost say congratulations? I'm getting the feeling that she's getting annoyed that people are stealing her thunder. Well, she's stolen her son's story and made it all about her. I mean, once the struggles that her son has gone through. It's really just the struggles that Katie went through, and then what people must have been thinking. God, they were judging me. I bet they were judging me. It's always the mother's fault. They think it's always the mother's fault. God, listen to yourself. Well, you don't. You should play back your videos, and then you should notice every time you stroke your hair. Yeah. I really wish that you would work on your confidence in yourself, in your words. I don't know. Maybe wear a hairnet or something. Oh my God, I'm going to throw in a hair scarf. You know, you can tie it up one day and you won't be able to get to it. Or you'll find a way. You will.
Thank you for sharing that people with disabilities and in wheelchairs can live a fully independent life. Of course you can. You can do anything. It's amazing. We have, I loved hearing her story.
The wheelchair has thrown her because she made V. Like, she went and got a wheelchair for V. Made him use it. Said that he couldn't, like, basically she made it out like he had what Leah's daughter has, how she's got Leah from Teen Mum, how she's got to not use so much energy. So then sometimes she walks, but then most times she's in the wheelchair. And Katie was like that. It's in one of her videos that used to be on her family channel, Trifecta and Fur. And yeah, they went to the fair or whatever it was. And yeah, her son was in the wheelchair. And it's like he just wants to get up and run around. But no, it's got to play the part. In my opinion, just my view.
So thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have a great day. I didn't want to distract today with content that was like tea. I wanted to focus specifically on this topic and just give it time to simmer. So thank you guys for being here with me. Bye.
We even got a little extra wave from her two fingers. I think they were waving separately. Oh, because they weren't on the midline. It's almost like can we go back? Where was the midline? Where was it? I just want to relive it because I feel, it's not going to give it to me. Here's some hand action. Look at that. It's really beautiful. Okay. First, let me just, tell you what I'm doing, and that's what I'm doing. Oh, can I put it in slow? We made it to the end, and now Bill is just going to destroy this live. I just want to one time in half. Like, seriously. Oh my God. Okay, here we go. This is the moment of all the timestamp.
And well, not super common, but it's something that happens when the two cells meet. So when the egg and the swimmer meets, they create a cell, and then the cell splits, and the cell sort of like goes down like this, and it creates like
the body,
And that's the uterus. And then that's the whole what is going on. It's a slow motion horror movie. I might have freaked myself out.
and it creates the midline of the body. And when the neural tube doesn't develop correctly, anything that's on the midline can not develop correctly. And that's what happened to my son. So his pituitary didn't develop correctly. He developed hydrocephalus. He has issues with
Oh, God, I really don't think she's any closer to understanding. I feel like she can just sit there and say all this stuff because she's read about it. That's why, because, well, do all narcissists talk in third person? Is it a narc thing? I think I forgot that about Katie. It really pisses me off, especially when she's talking about stuff that's personal. She can't say I, and she can't. It's like when she remembers, because anyone that's been through therapy will know that they make you remember, and then they ask you, where are you, like, where, when you remember it, are you remembering it from yourself, like your point of view, or out of body? And yeah, and I feel like Katie is so out of body, so disconnected from herself, but then she's not even fucking in tune with her emotions anyway. She has no idea who she is. There's just so many more issues here than anything. Like, I feel like Katie could have just read from Wikipedia. Like, I don't feel like I got any of her personal story except a show and tell of hats. But then even then, there was no connection. There was no memory connection except that one hat. But that one hat because it had the drama behind it that she needs. And then see her talking about, I've never lost a child. It was just not sensitive, the way that she was saying it. It was almost like people wouldn't understand. It's just weird. I couldn't work out why she was saying it the way she was. Is this before or after she yelled at Sue, like, who lost the child? Her child in the Survivor. I wonder if that was in January this year. I don't know. I've covered that. Might have to find that video, but yeah. Okay, we've come to the end. I'm going to bring my cookie back to the surface. I don't really know if I've got anything in my brain to bring some final thoughts to this, but we're going to try. The story didn't really change, did it? But, well, there were a few things that I pointed out that she said the night before. Yeah. She just doesn't understand. I hate the way that she explained spina bifida as well, because, like, she can't explain it in just layman's terms. She explains it like she has read it, and then you can see it in her face that she doesn't fully understand. And that's why when she says the cells split, she just went in, like, no idea really, no real understanding of what is going on. Yeah, I've just been because I've been reading so much, like back in around the 2015, 2016 time. Like, I totally forgot that he's turning 10 in October this year. Like, he's turning 10. He's been on a feeding tube for 7 years. Holy shit. Like, that's where the present day fucks me up. Like, that's fucked when you really do think about that. 7 years. Most kids are, people that don't need a feeding tube for life, other than that, you know, use it for 4 years, 5 years, or whatever, but they're always trying to work getting that child to eat properly, because every child wants to eat and experience food. That is part of life. And then there's so much with the feeding tube, because with that also comes the amount of screen time. And I know there's people out there that are like me that must be fucking alarmed as fuck. Because, yeah, I mean, have you ever sat down on the couch with a tub of ice cream and you're just watching a movie, and then all of a sudden you're at the bottom of that ice cream? You have not been present the whole time you're eating this. Like, anything could be happening. You're just not conscious to it. They've basically, he's turning 10. It's going to be so hard for him to get off this feeding tube. It's going to be so hard. Impossible, almost, but it will be possible with a lot of work. But that's the thing. There's no one in that house that wants to put in the hard work. There's no patience. Oh my God. Where do we go from here? My brain wants to sprint. Might have to lock my brain down. Oh, I see some cactus, angel cake, some green in the chat. Hi, Cactus crew, hanging out. I'm just doing a little scroll. Oh, look. There's some familiar faces. Names. Be Free. Boki. Oh, totally clueless. Bender. I would say your name like that. Just have to live with it now. Yes, that jacket that she showed, that she wiped her nose on, was it for a 3-month-old? Yeah, but it doesn't look like he ever wore it. Which, yeah. But, do you reckon she would have washed it before putting it back in the box? Or would it go in the box and then it just crusts up? Oh my God. This is just too much. I freak out when my nieces love it. They think it's so funny when I have to blow their nose, and it's disgusting. Oh my God. I think it's the worst. I would rather change their punami nappy than deal with Boogie. It just goes everywhere. And then I'm like, eh. And they're like, you're so funny. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Glad you find it funny. No, of course she didn't wash anything. Doesn't wash the bedroom. But yeah. Okay, well, I also want to, yeah. I hope we don't need to watch any other video for Premi. I think there was one more, but how much more can there be? It'd be just her on repeat, the same story, maybe a few different details. Okay, guys, well, I think I might have to go because I'm going to have to get to bed. But yeah, this weekend I did plan on doing a few things for the cacti contributors, and otherwise I might do live as well or something. If I stay in, I think I will be staying in. Oh, Squidward. Oh, totally agree. Squidward says everything is coated in snot, boogs, spit up, drool, eye crust, and cat hair. Cat hair and oh no. Oh, one of your fur babies recently passed. It's the worst, isn't it? It's just the worst. It's the worst because everyone's like, when they want to tell you that it's just a cat or a dog or just a goldfish, I'm like, you don't understand, okay? It's part of my soul. Oh. Okay, I can't go there. Oh, yeah, narcissists never truly love anyone but themselves. It's what Melly Lynn says. It sounds cruel, but even when it comes to their children, they display love that is replicated to the norm. Yeah, they just mimic what is expected, what they think is expected. But yeah, I was reading some studies on sons that had narcissistic mothers and how detrimental it is to, yeah, but also like he's a Libran. He's a Libra, born in October, probably has strong emotions. Oh, 16-year-old black cat, Smitty. Oh, from Hook. Is it from Hook? Oh, 16 years. That's a good run. Oh, man. And like cats at the moment in like where I live, oh my gosh, they're trying to make sure like no one lets their cats out anymore. And I'm like, they should have brought this ban in years ago. And just like, yeah, I'm like my brain, this is what's happening. I'm like TikTok from Return to Oz. It's just winding down and I'm just spitting out words. Okay, guys, I'm going to add the timestamps. I forgot to add them. I should have put my brain on. Well, it wasn't even on, was it? But thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, if you can check back, there'll be timestamps. And yeah, we'll do. Fuck, my brain is not working. Oh, a lot of people have like narcissistic moms. My gosh. The damage. But then I guess on the other side of things as well, like to be able to see it. Like before Katie, I'd read about narcissists, like in obviously studies and when I studied at uni and stuff, and like movies, but never really come across one on YouTube just with the whole self-awareness thing that you would think you would need to be a YouTuber. And so I'd never seen that kind of thing. It's an interesting specimen. And so, yeah, I remember, was it 2020? I went back to uni. Was it 2020? I can't remember. My brain is like, don't even make me think back. I can't remember past the pandemic anymore. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good day. It's like really not coming out. I'll catch you in the next live though. Happy Friday, guys. See ya.
What am I supposed to do? Yeah. I can't.